like that was something that was surprising to me. Like the FBI is not talking to other government agencies that could be affected by these intrusions.
Maybe a limited case by case basis, but you think that between what the Pentagon has, their cyber command, and the NSA, CIA, FBI, you would think that they would have, and Homeland Security would have some mechanism set up where they can shield their own sources and their own knowledge about how they found out about these threats that exist on the networks, but they would be able to share that across the key agencies of the U.S. government. But frankly, they don't trust each other enough to do that. The CIA and the FBI hate each other. The Defense Department hates the intelligence community, and vice versa. So we are hobbled by these intramural not hostilities but rivalries. So that's why we need at the White House level, at a Department of Digital Services, a director who can force a greater measure of cooperation, a greater measure of protection of our systems, modernization of some systems, and training of a systematic training of more IT and cyber administrators. So that's what's missing is from our, as someone put it, the U.S. government is not organized for the digital era, for the internet era. The U.S. government has not changed its structure at all.
Basically, you're talking about the creation of a cyber force.
Well, that's a different thing, right? Like the cyber force you talk about is different. It's kind of more like
a space force, air force, cyber force.
Modeled on the Coast Guard, so that we would have an entity that would have intelligence capabilities and privileges, and also be able to arrest people that they catch. The problem with CISA within the Department of Homeland Security now is they have responsibilities for only about half of the 16 or 17 critical infrastructure sectors we have. And they don't have the power to go into those companies' systems to hunt for bad actors. And they don't have the capacity to arrest anybody. So they don't have the full range of capabilities that we would need to really put a stop to this pattern of cyber penetration.
And it's interesting you also talked about having reserve forces in the cyber force.
Well, that's been co-author's areas of knowledge. I know that he was suggesting that we create a cyber force. What do you mean reserve force?
Oh, like the National Guard.
Well, yeah, that we'd have a digital Coast Guard that would have multiple functions and be able to move from these different sectors: intelligence, law enforcement, and even arrests of people. So that would be it would be loosely associated with the Department of Digital Services, but would not be 100% under its control.
It's one thing to have the power to make arrests, which obviously we may not have when it comes to cyber crimes right now.
And we can't find them. Usually they're hidden in North Macedonia or someplace.
Right. Well, so that's the thing, right? Because you have jurisdictional issues too. Like it's not like, you can arrest someone in California or Arizona who's committing these crimes. They're completely out of jurisdiction. And in many countries, they're out of extradition jurisdiction. Like China, obviously, we don't have an extradition treaty with China or with Russia.
Right.
So I mean, you can't arrest people, but we know who they are maybe, but what do we do?
You're right that the pattern here is it's global, that a Chinese APT group could have servers in 20 or 30 different countries. And so the Chinese could come at you from a server in Macedonia or Albania, and there are no Chinese fingerprints on it. You have no idea where it's coming from. But then there are other activities that are happening within the continental United States that can be subject to American law enforcement. For example, in some cases, the Chinese come in and they set up, they rent servers in the United States and use those servers to conduct their activities, and then fold and go away before the NSA or FBI can get warrants to crack down on them and arrest them. So we could greatly improve that situation by having a Department of Digital Services and just having government that can take action sooner. and not have to wait weeks or months to get a warrant to break up a malevolent attack.
I mean, but aren't warrants like kind of a good thing because they create due process before you go and arrest people?
Well, this again gets into the issue of Americans worried about their individual rights. I mean, Americans have asked me and Mike several occasions, well, what you're talking about means in some senses we have to become more authoritarians and our rights are going to be at risk. And he and I keep saying, no. We believe that the American system is flexible enough that we can continue to protect individual rights, individual liberties, but just organize ourselves in ways that we can catch the bad guys without running roughshod over the rights that Americans hold to be so dear. I mean, we point out that the American Constitution, the American system is built to protect the rights of individuals. And that's the framers of the Constitution were acutely sensitive to that. Whereas the Russians and Chinese, their systems are built to enhance the rights and the power of the Communist Party and to run roughshod over their own individuals. So this is another great source of resistance. You ask about where is the resistance coming from? It's people who worry that we'll overshoot and we'll do things that are heavy-handed or authoritarian. So you're right in saying that warrants should be a good thing, but maybe there's a way to get them faster, more efficiently, and cut through the red tape faster so that we can take action against the people who need to be acted against.
Well, certainly the great thing about the Department of Homeland Security is that it has never overshot its what it was supposed to do. So no one needs to worry. But, okay, so this actually leads me into an important thing because in any kind of discussion like this, people will say, well, isn't America doing the same thing that China and Russia is doing? Like you mentioned Snowden and the NSA.
Right. Well, I think that we have pretty robust intelligence operations going on, but I don't think that they're nearly as robust as what the Chinese have. I mean, we obviously saw that the Russians were going to invade Ukraine. We know about the interactions between Prigozhin and the Wagner Group. So we have pretty good penetration of the Russian system. Not nearly as good, though, with the Chinese, because the Chinese have the Great Firewall, because they've been building up their capacities for so many years to resist our ability to penetrate. I think that it's asymmetrical. I don't think that we have nearly the same insights into what's happening in their Ministry of Foreign Affairs as they have what's happening in our Department of State. So that I'm sure that our guys are trying to figure out what's going on inside China, but I think that they're severely handicapped. One reason is just language. That Chinese, when I was there, they were learning English on VOA and BBC radio broadcasts in the parks in the morning. The Chinese have taken the study of English very seriously. So there are millions of Chinese who speak English. But we have not taken the study of Chinese nearly as seriously. And so we are handicapped by that alone. Even if we got inside a Chinese decision-making system, would we be able to understand what's happening? I'm not at all sure we would.
That's a good point. I mean, like the language barriers, like the specific Chinese language used in cyber, that whole world that I can't even articulate in English. Imagine trying to have to figure it out in Chinese too.
I mean, on the other hand, that is a weakness, I think, for the CCP, because there is a level of arrogance there that there's no way that these people will figure out what. So, for example, a few years ago, one of the Chinese Students and Scholars Associations were being accused of having links to the Chinese consulates, and they were all denying it. But then in Chinese, on their websites in Chinese, it's said that they had links with the Chinese consulate, and they just assumed that there would be nobody, no journalists could possibly read Chinese and see those links, The
other question we get asked a lot is the data collection is going on. In Google and Microsoft and Apple, they're all gathering data. How's that any different than what the Chinese are doing? And so why are you picking on the Chinese? Well, Amazon, Apple, Meta, and all these guys, they want the data so they can sell you something. They want to make money off the data. So if you send an email to somebody about a trip you have planned to Atlanta, let's say, then you shouldn't be surprised if an ad pops up on Google saying, here's a hotel in Atlanta. But that's purely for making money. That they are not using that data in a way that's going to compromise national security, or in a way that's going to result in you being arrested for something you didn't do. It's fairly benign when compared to. Nobody likes it. I don't like it, but Americans accept it. Americans accept that so much data about them is being collected. But there is a difference between what our private sector is doing and what the Chinese government is doing.
You mean this isn't a plot by the Chinese Communist Party to sell Xi Jinping's governance on China to Americans?
Through Amazon, you mean?
Through Amazon, yeah.
Yeah, right. Here, Xi Jinping, the hero on Amazon, bestseller on Amazon, right.
Well, they did get Amazon to make a special Chinese
They
books,
did.
propaganda book section, so...